Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the viewers. This is your host for today's session of JForex Indicators, Vaibhav. Now coming to the indicator, in today's session we will be looking at the concept, the properties, the uses of a indicator, which gives us the depth of the market developments, whatever is the price action. We first have to try to understand if it is driven by significant interest of the market participants or not. So that extent, we get to rely on this indicator to figure out the opportunities which are having more than normal, more than average interest of the market participants. And if that is the case, we can be fairly confident, of course not always, but we can be fairly relying on that data to make the informed assessment of the price dynamic, and we can then try to exploit the situation to our advantage. So let us now head to the JForex 4, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the Euro USD chart. I have drawn it on the candle period defined at 1 hour each, and this on the bottom side, the graphs you are seeing are the bar charts for the output value of the volume indicator. You can simply find this indicator by doing a quick search. If you type in VOL, here it comes, volumes, or if you want to know where it is listed, you can take the F3 route and go to the volume indicators, and there you will find it. Alright, just below the time segmented volume, which I explained to you in yesterday's session, last session. Here it is. Alright. Now, as I said in my introductory remark, we get a good idea of the price dynamic and the depth of the market participant. And if you pay attention to these plotting here in today's session, as you can notice that the volume more than doubled for this chart where there was significant decline. And even if we don't pay any attention to the price data, whatever has happened to the price, if we simply omit it from our all right, Janice, I will look into it later on. Now coming to the Euro USD's charting here, if we look at the plotting of these volume indicators output, here we have the output value more than doubling, and that shows us, actually it has more than tripled. That showed us that the interest of the market participants is significantly higher compared to the prior hour. And if we then combine that interest of the market participants with the pricing data, we get a good idea that this is a move which is likely driven by a significant interest, and it is likely to last. Even if we don't initiate the trade straight away at that point in time, we can keep in mind moving ahead that this was the price point at around 1.154, after which a lot of pressure was generated because of the heavy selling that has happened with significant volume, and that pushed the Euro USD's price against the dollar lower almost 100 pips at one point in time. And these kind of developments change the trajectory of the underlying instrument of our choice, and we can then take the trade, or we can anchor our trades with these price points and the volume data, with utilizing the information to optimize our entry and exit. And this is a neutral indicator. If we simply look at its output value, it is going to rise when the depth of the market participation is higher, and the price can be driven on either side. It can be rising or it can be declining. This coloring of this chart is simply for simplifying the charting, and we don't really have to work too hard to make sense of this output value. And this means that when we have the chart of this volume output, the bar chart of this volume output color trade. That means that the price dynamic turned bearish. The closing price for that particular candle was lower compared to the opening price. And when the volume is high and we have this bar chart plotted in green, that means the closing price for that hour's candle, that candle period, was higher compared to the opening price. So that's how this output value is going to help us in defining the trend of the underlying instrument, and we can simply set the parameters in such a way that we would be in a position to take trade only when there is significant interest, and those kind of moves are likely to last much longer compared to the price moves in which we don't really see any significant interest by the market participants. In those kind of scenarios, more or less, not always, but most of the times, the price action remains sideways. There is no uh, move, not a significant move on either side. If we simply go back in today's session itself, here you can see that the volume tended to be lower compared to what we were seeing in yesterday's session when there was a price rise and the volume was also high. Compared to that, the volume was lower, and also the price dynamic, if we pay attention to it, was very range bound until the release of these non-farm payroll data, which then moved lower with a significantly higher volume as well. So these indicators in which you can take this output value as also a signal of the possibility of underlying instrument doesn't really going anywhere. It might simply continue to move sideways, and only when there is a spurt in the price action, and that is also being accompanied by significantly higher volume, then maybe you can be driven to take the trading decision. You can use this indicator to pinpoint the entry points and also the exit points, and all you need to do is use any other indicator of your choice to give you a good idea of the price direction, as it is a neutral indicator from the point of view of trend. It is not going to help you in figuring out the trend. It is simply going to give you an idea of the strength of the trend, so you can then make further assessment while combining the data points gathered from multiple indicators and also the price action. Now let's see what kind of customization we can do with this indicator when we have to use this indicator to figure out the entry and exit. There is nothing really we can do about the input. It is going to take into the account whatever is the buying and selling is happening, the number of bids and the asks which are being put in by the market participants for the current candle. So that's the sole input value it takes, and we can't really do anything to that. So here the prospects of making edits to the input parameters is ruled out. Then comes the output value, bullish or bearish, and as I said, this is only for making things simple for the readers of this chart. It doesn't really give you a great sense of the price dynamic, and this inference is simply drawn by what has happened to the closing price in respect of the opening price. So that's about it. Now we have this color combination in place. If you feel like, you can go for different color combination, so you get to choose which kind of color combination you want to work with. Those options are always there on the chart for you to work with. If you are happy with the current color combination, you can keep it as it is, or you can even customize it further. All those options are available to you. Now here, let us restore it back to the color combination it was there. So this trend up is looking at the greenish color combination, and this is dark red. So I think it is looking quite good the way it is, so I'm not going to make any changes. And coming to the styling combination, you can always make changes to that as well. But here also my personal view is that this bar charting pattern makes it simpler for us to read into the data points. So that's why I'm keeping it as it is here. But if you want to try out what kind of plotting you will get if you change this styling combination, here you will have two different lines plotted on the chart, and here the prominence is much less, but you can always increase the width so that combinations can also be made more prominent simply by increasing the width. And you can go for different brighter colors also if you feel that this is getting too difficult to read into. Now I'm going to restore it back to what it was earlier. All right. Here, the transparency factor can also be varied. You can increase or decrease the transparency. If you increase the transparency, then the prominence of this bar chart on the chart will become a lot less. So here, you will always be in position to read into the data points. Only thing is that we have this chart where a lot more prominence is being given to the candlestick data, and you have this volume output but which is appearing in the background. So only if you want to pay attention to it and go into its individual value, you can always take the cursor and take the output value at that point in time. So that makes it easier for you to add multiple indicators, and at the same time, if you want to avoid making chart look too cluttered, uh, you can use this lower transparency option. Level, you can always add the levels, but this is an unbounded indicator. You can't really define levels which are going to work all the time. Maybe you can draw some inference by going into its charting for significant amount of time and get a good idea of what kind of average volume is for the instrument of your choice. Using that, maybe if you feel like, you can add the levels as it. Else, I think. In any unbounded indicator, it is very difficult to get a level which is going to work well for you all the time or most of the time. That's why I'm not going into the hassle of adding any particular level. Coming to the advanced editing options, we can opt for the recalculate on new candle only. In this scenario, what happens is whatever is the output which is there at the start of the new candle, it will remain so throughout the current candle, even though the applied price is going to keep varying throughout the current candle spirit. So that is something which you have to live with, but it brings in stability, and you get a once output value which is then going to be applicable throughout the current candle period until new candle formation takes place. Highlight the time period zone. Highlight, you can get this, but since there is only single calculation period involved, this is not going to help either. You can customize the calculation further. You can use this indicator on almost all of the instruments available on the JForex 4 platform, the trading platform. So whenever you feel like, you can go to the panel and change the instrument, and you will have this indicator plotting you the output value. And here there is a interesting observation, and this is explained by the fact that whenever the markets are open, the US markets are open, you will have significantly higher interest by market participants compared to the timings where the future markets are open but US spot markets are closed. And in those times, those hours, we will have a lot less volume action. The depth of the price move as well as the volume, the turnover is going to be less, and that is pretty much evident from the charting. Here, if we come to today's session, the volume picked up after this non-farm payroll data release, and it has remained that way. But once the US markets close, and if on Monday we come back, even though the futures will start trading the US equity indices futures like Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and the S&P 500 will start trading, but there won't be much of an interest from the market participants, so the volume will be much lower compared to what we are seeing right now. Now I will restore it back to Euro USD, which is the most liquid currency pair. Calculate from the custom data. You can use the candle period varying from 10 seconds to 1 month, so you get the option. Or you can simply use it from the chart, and whenever you use a different candle period on the chart, you will have the plotting of the indicator changing in that manner. Suppose if you have a system which takes into consideration the price dynamic and the market participants interest on the lower time frame, maybe if you feel like, you can use that, so you will have the idea of the recent price move, and what kind of interest by market participants is being shown and is driving the moves in the instrument of your choice. Calculate from the custom data side. Spread side can be ask or bid. There will be slight difference, but not much. The trajectory is going to be similar. Okay. If you want the indicator to be available on all the candle periods, you have to opt in for this, as you have to specify on which candle periods these indicators should be available. And this particular option given to you helps you in adding multiple indicators on different time frames. If you have a system which takes into account a lot of data points and on multiple time frames, then this option works quite well. Suppose for example you want this indicator to be available only on 5-minute candlestick time frame but not on 10 minutes or any other time frame, then whenever you change the chart you will not see the volume indicator plotted for these instrument. But if I want to add another instrument, another indicator for the same instrument, but only to be visible on 10 minutes, I can do that as well. So on different time frames you can have different indicator, so that makes your job of drawing the inference from multiple data points much easier to comprehend and work with. Now I will restore it back to show indicator on all the periods. So guys and girls, this is all from my side. If you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Before I sign off, I would also like to remind of the risk associated with trading in the financial market. So whenever you are working with any indicator, please pay attention to its pros and cons. There is no sure short solution which is going to work all the time, so you have to figure out a setup which is going to work for you at least most of the time, and if not most of the time, it should be making you profitable trades more than at least half of the time, and that should always be the goal. So that's all from my side. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too for further developments. If you want the coverage of the market developments, we have the Dukascopy Analytics page, so please check it out. And for trying out this newly released platform, the trading platform, the link has been included in the bio. So give it a try and let me know how all these works out for you. That's all from my side. I'll be back on Monday with a new indicator, new combination, new properties. See you on Monday. Goodbye.